Well, good evening. I'm Eric Thomas, a board member of the Home Again Foundation. As you know, the focus this evening is on our veterans, those brave men and women who served and sacrificed for our country to ensure and protect our freedom. But in the big picture, our mission is to help anyone and everyone in the greater Charlotte region who is experiencing housing insecurity. Now, prior to my involvement, when I heard the word homeless, the first image that came into my mind were the unsheltered people, the ones that you see pushing a shopping cart on a sidewalk, or the ones that you might see in an intersection. But Rick told me that those unsheltered people, they are just a tiny fraction of the people in our community who are really housing insecure. In other words, we're talking about working people who are still not earning enough income to either rent or own a home of their own. Look at these numbers. Currently in Charlotte-Mecklenburg, there are over 3,000 people who are classified as homeless, and over 1,100 of them have young children. You can add another 170 veterans to this list who are also homeless. That's another 170 veterans who cannot afford to put a roof over their heads. It turns out the housing affordability index in this country remains at nearly record lows. Anything below 100, that's the red line that you see, that's bad news. And notice how the index drops like a rock after 2020. Affording a home right now, frankly, it's harder than it's ever been. Allow me to dig a little deeper. If you are making a median income in this country, can you afford a median priced house? It stands to reason the answer should be yes. Well, have a look at this graph. Now, it starts off showing how the median income has been rising steadily since 2005, and now it sits around $80,000 per year. But before I go on, let me be clear. The median means that half the households in this country are making more than that, while the other half are making less. Along those lines, here's a look at some critical vocations in our community that actually do fall well short of the nation's median income. Nurses, police, firefighters, teachers, paramedics, EMTs, you know, those people who come out and save your life if you need it. Nevertheless, let's return to the graph. Now, note the orange line. That line indicates the actual income that you would need to qualify if you want to buy that median priced home. So, okay, well, notice from 2005 through 2021, people who were earning the median income, that's the blue line, were making enough actual money to afford a median priced home. Bingo, the economy is working. But, look what has happened since. The cost of housing has shot way up, making a median priced home out of reach for a median income earner, and way out of reach for households earning less than the median income. Again, that blue line. As you can see right now, you need an income around $125,000 to $130,000 just to afford a median priced home, which now stands at nearly $440,000. Ouch. And by the way, I just grabbed this picture off of Axios last week showing this home for sale. Here's an example of what $400,000 buys you today. So what's behind all this? Well, most obviously, the price of housing has skyrocketed upwards. So let's start there. In this graph, note the left-hand side. The median priced home increased by 37% over a 9-year period from 2011 through 2020. Yet, on the right-hand side, housing costs increased again by 37%, only this time it only took 2 years, which likely blindsided many first-time home buyers and young adults who might be working entry-level jobs. But wait, I'm not done. Layered on top of those skyrocketing housing prices is inflation, and it is everywhere. Higher prices at the grocery store, higher prices at the gas pump, for utilities, higher prices for health care, higher prices for insurance, car insurance, property insurance. The biggest killer of all, though, the higher interest rates. And don't just be fooled by those numbers coming down the past 2 years. Prices are not coming down. They are still rising, just not as fast as the previous years. In fact, a good index to look at is the Consumer Price Index because it shows the cumulative effect of just that. Today you are spending $187 on things that would have only cost you $100 back in 2020. Ouch. So how did I get involved? Well, I retired at the end of 2021, and it wasn't long after that when I was in a bowling alley of all places, and Rick Gilbert was there, and he walked up to me and he said, "Hey, I've been watching what you've been doing on WBTV over the past several years with the foster children, and I was wondering if you might help me." And I looked at him and I said, "Okay, what did you have in mind? What do you do?" And he said, "Well, it's an extension of what you're doing, except it's for people of all ages." And he stopped and he looked at me and he said, "Eric, we're in a crisis. We have an exploding population right now of homeless people. Now, I know there's a lot of organizations in the Charlotte area right now that aspire to help poor people. And in fact, there are some that even build a home from time to time. But he looked at me and he said, "I'm not about building a home. I'm about building neighborhoods and communities." And I looked at him and I said, "Should I know you? Are you a CEO of a bank or something?" And he said, "No, I drive a forklift at Sam's Club." And I said, "Okay, I think it's time for me to go bowl now." And I started to walk away, but he grabbed me and he pulled a picture out and he showed me this community, this neighborhood that he had built in North Charlotte without any taxpayer money. And I looked at this picture and I just said, "My God, what is the name of your organization?" And he said, "Eric, we're the Home Again Foundation."